Good morning, everyone. I'm Ashley Unger, and I am here at Cafe U with another one of my morning coffee chats. This morning, I am drinking a Mad Hatter, which was an April special we had, and it consists of an iced Earl Grey with vanilla and coconut and a lavender cold foam. It is so delicious. This morning I was not in the mood for a coffee, and so this is a really good alternative. You can do any of our Republic of Teas iced or hot, so it's really nice to have a little change every once in a while. It's still caffeinated, so cheers to everybody. I'm always choosing the ones with the cold foam coming over my mouth. I'm also eating one of our chocolate croissants. I wanted to kind of keep it simple. Excuse me. I wanted to kind of keep it simple this morning. So if you haven't had one of our chocolate croissants, they're to die for. Definitely ask to get it heated. I think they heat them anyways, but it's definitely reminiscent. It reminds me of my days in Europe. It is something you would get at a little street cafe, and especially if you're not wanting a hot breakfast, it's totally a good choice, and especially if you like sweet like I do. So anyhow, last week we talked about time and time management and how to spend your time efficiently so that you are able to focus and move about your day with more intent. I have found that when I move throughout my day with more intent, I am much happier. So, oh, by the way, I forgot to show you that I'm sitting in this dentist chair, and I'm actually in the Blast and Game room today. All of our rooms upstairs are named after families that have lived here in the past, and I forgot to mention, yes, that I'm in the Blast and Game. It's a very feminine room. It's named after one of the first families that lived here, and I've kind of found myself in a corner chair, it being a dentist chair. So, anyhow, with that said, time when you're moving through your day with more intent, I feel like you get more done, you're more happy. It kind of leads me into my next subject, and this subject is really one I like to talk about a lot too, and it's intuition. What is that? What does it mean? Is it a conscious? Is it a God? Is it a collective whole conscious? There's so many words for it. Where does it come from? I love to ask all the questions. I like to approach subjects, as my friend Danny would say, with childlike curiosity. Sometimes we don't think about things more in depth. We hear the word intuition and we just kind of pass it off. First, I want to say that I feel like it's really hard to trust your intuition if you don't know yourself. And so going through these coffee chats, knowing your values, knowing how you want to spend your time is so super important, but also knowing yourself is really important. Becoming your own friend. So I did a lot of traveling in my 20s. I did a lot of backpacking solo, and I did this because I was on this journey to figure out what I wanted to do, what my path was. Funny enough that the journey itself had lots of lessons. It reminds me of the heroic cycle in literature, if you're a geek like me and like stuff like that. You kind of have to separate yourself for a minute. You kind of have to unplug. You have to remove yourself from what you know. When you do this, you start to become your friend, your own friend. You start to learn who you are. If you have distraction, then it makes it really difficult. And so, if you're moving about with no intent for your day, if you're kind of mindlessly doing things and you don't know who you are, it makes life so much harder, I feel. This is so my opinion, but if you can connect and learn who you are through and through, I feel like it really helps you become more intuitive. And when you can become more intuitive, you don't worry so much and you don't rely on other people as much, I feel. So in my travels, I realized that because I traveled solo, I would get into situations where I would have to obviously figure it out myself. A lot of times I was in countries I didn't know the language. And also I would start to conversate with myself. Do you really think this is a good idea to turn left here? Or like, no, that doesn't seem like a very good neighborhood. And I had full-on conversations with myself because it was comfortable. It was a way for me to feel like I had a person there with me. And I learned so much through that. And when I came home, I ended up taking my friendship with myself and relying on it in so many ways. And I didn't need affirmation, or I didn't need confirmation from certain places to make me feel like I was making the right decisions. And so, of course, everyone needs guidance, and everyone needs friendships, and family. But when you trust yourself, you tend to make better decisions, I feel. So, intuition. When I am wondering, am I spending my time right? When I'm on this path where everything's flowing, and I'm knowing myself, and this has happened many times in my life. Sometimes I pause and I think, am I doing this right? Does this feel right? Is this, am I on the right track? And I know other people do that too. I hear it all the time. I'm always in conversation with people, and they're wondering, did I make the right decision? Did I quit my job when I should have? Did I, leave this person or cut this person out of my life, justly? So I don't even know if justly is a word. So we always question ourselves, and that's normal, I feel. But if you know yourself and you're friends with yourself, then you rely more on yourself. You trust that what you're doing is the right thing for you. And so in your everyday, you can start to, instead of having so much self-doubt, you can think, no, I know that that's right for me. And then this beautiful thing starts to emerge when you start relying more on your own intuition. You start to see signs. This is my favorite part of life. Are they God signs, or whatever you want to call it? I call them little angels. I call them moments of clarity, where you're wondering, I don't know if this is right. And then, because you're spending your time right, and you're focused, and you're aware, and there aren't distractions in your everyday, and you're paying attention to your surroundings, and you're paying attention to what people are saying, and you're paying attention to mishaps. Sometimes when we think there's a problem, it's actually a solution. When you're paying attention and you're plugged in and you're in tune, these signs pop up. They always do. When you ask the question, am I on the right path? Am I doing the right thing? Then this person comes up to me and says, blah, 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 blah. And that was what I was just thinking, that's a sign. When I, might take the wrong turn and end up in a place that has a sign that says something on it that I've been wondering, those kind of things. It's a path that you're on. Is it right? And you wonder, and then you get the signs, and the signs say, yes, you're on the right path. Sometimes it's the path we have to take, and it might not be the one we want to end up on, but it leads us to where we want to end up, I feel. So, I know a lot of people get really bogged down in negative, and, why is this happening to me? Why, we can become victims a lot. But if we're strong within, if we're strong from the inner core, then that carries on outward. I see this a lot in healthcare, in your world of health, in your world of career, in your world of family. I see a lot of people being fearful They rely on other people to tell them what they need. Sometimes that's necessary, of course. I'm not saying it's not. But from the ground up, if you know that you can trust your instincts, you can trust your intuition, sometimes you already know the answer. You don't need someone to tell you. All you have to do is tune in and listen and see the signs. There are many times where, even my children might get sick, or I might think, oh, I don't know, this doesn't seem right. But I'm gonna just kind of use my common sense. I'm gonna use my knowledge, use what I have, not get scared. Think, take my time, pause, reflect, sit still for a second, because we always get so in a hurry, rush here, rush there, go find this person, go do this, and sometimes really the clarity comes in just being still for a moment. Okay, let's talk this through, let's think this through. What do I know about this? Okay, I know this, this, and this. All right. How can I intuitively go forward? And sometimes it requires a person or a thing or a place or whatever. But at least you've chosen that decision, and people aren't barking things at you. All the time I hear people barking, well, you need to do this, and well, that happened to you, so you need to do this, and blah, blah, blah. But sometimes we already have the answers. Intuition is so strong in my life, especially with my health. I a lot of the times I try to think, how can I just stay healthy? How, instead of waiting to solve the problem when it gets bad, how can I avoid that problem? The way that we live our lives and our daily lives, so many problems can be avoided or misdirected or redirected. Sorry. If we are listening and being in tune. And we do that by being more still, being friends with ourselves, trusting ourselves. You have to trust. So this is a topic I feel like really enhances your life. It really, it makes the flow of life much more interesting, for sure. I love confirmations. I love seeing that, okay, yeah, I definitely know I'm on the right track. Numbers follow me around. My favorite, is when you have something heavy on your mind and that song pops up on the radio and you're like, what? I needed to hear that. When that right person just happens to come around and they have that perfect conversation that you needed to hear. But if you're not in tuned, you're not paying attention to those things. If you're on your phone all the time, or you're on a screen all the time, or you're not looking up, you're not looking out the window, you're not in the moment, you miss those signs sometimes. And I feel like that distraction comes from not being organized. So that's why I like to talk about time first, because organizing your time can sometimes help you move about your day to where you can actually see those signs, not so frazzled. You can pay attention to those things being said around you. Just real quick, I wanted to tell you a story. I had an 8-month backpacking trip planned, and I got 5 months into my backpacking trip, and I was in Italy, and I was about to board a ship to cross the Adriatic Sea into Greece. And I was a little nervous because it was kind of the farthest I had gone away from home. And I was feeling real weird. I don't know. I was feeling like things were just off. I was having a hard time in Italy. And I kept thinking about home. I was starting to get homesick. I was staying with a lot of people, a lot of couch surfers and such. And I was feeling exhausted. So I knew that my physical self was suffering just a little bit. And there was 3 days, I think I was in Venice, and I was about to board that ship, like the next day, maybe it was 2 days. And I kind of had a meltdown. And the reason why is I kept thinking about home, and all day long on this one particular day, I would run into someone, an American or something. And I remember, never forget this one woman, and she was like, oh, you've been gone for so long, I bet you miss home. Like, I feel for you. Like, she was an older woman, and she's like, I bet your parents really miss you. And, and I was like, yeah, they do. I'm sure I miss home too. And then I accidentally get on the wrong gondola, and I'm supposed to go to, I can't remember where it was, this museum or something. But instead, I went to the Island of Glass, the Island of Murano, I think it's called. It's been a long time. People had been telling me, oh, you should go to the Island of Glass, the Island Murano or whatever. But I was like, it's not really my thing. Like, I don't think I would really enjoy that. And so I didn't plan on going. But I got on the wrong gondola. I didn't even buy the ticket. The ticket was really expensive, and that was another reason why I decided to avoid it. But here I am on that gondola, and I'm thinking they're totally gonna kick me off, but they didn't. And on the way there, I look over, and in English, not Italian, there's this big sign, this big graffiti sign that said, "There's no place like home." What? I'm thinking, what? That's crazy, And so then I'm like, this is kind of weird. Then I get on the island, and home signs were popping up everywhere. I see someone who looks like my dad. Those kind of things. I started to think I was crazy. Am I crazy for this? I called my mom and I said, look, I don't know what's happening to me, but my intuition right now is telling me that I need to come home. And I think I need to end my trip. I had Hong Kong, I had China, I had Turkey, I had Thailand, New Zealand, Australia, I think Fiji. I had so many places after that to go. I was so excited but it was hard. I followed my intuition and I came home. I booked a flight the next day. Actually, I booked it that night, and I slept in the airport. And because my mom said, if that's what you think, you need to come home, because that must be, that's your signs. Those are your signs. Like, you need to do it. Follow your intuition. It turns out that my best friend and I went to Guatemala the very next year in the spring, and we were in Antigua, and we were staying with her family. And the next morning, we wake up, and all over the news is a tsunami that had hit Japan. Well, I started thinking, I got really this weird feeling about me, and I started thinking about it, and I was like counting the months, and it turns out that I was supposed to be in Japan, in the north, woofing. I don't know if anyone's ever heard of woofing. It's a World Organization of Organic Farmers. It's where you can stay with people and farm for free, and they house you. I was supposed to be there for 3 weeks helping a local family with their restaurant and their crops. And it was the exact time I was supposed to be there. And I still get chills to this day telling that story, because sometimes we move forward and we think, I'm going to just do it anyways. I'm not going to listen to myself. And then we suffer the consequences in ways that we don't know. Maybe death, who knows? Maybe we force things and then we realize that it didn't need to be forced. I know for a fact that my intuition was saving me that day, and I listened to it intently. There were a few other reasons why I felt like I needed to come home, so it kind of made it a little bit easier for me. But I'll never forget that feeling when I woke up in Guatemala and realized that I was supposed to be in Japan and that tsunami had hit, and what would have happened, I don't know. So trusting yourself, trusting that you can make the right decisions for yourself, for your health and your safety and your happiness is so important. Don't rely on other people for that. You might find yourself in a situation where you're lost, and maybe we're all lost sometimes, but it's better to know yourself first. So learn who you are. I want to know who you are. So in the comments below, tell me how you stay intuitive. Tell me how you use your intuition. Tell me a cool story. Like I have so many. I could literally have a whole entire week's worth of stories on when my intuition served me, when it literally saved my life, when it helped me make saved me from making the worst decisions of my life, saved me from a lot of grief and a lot of trouble, and also helped me create a beautiful life. So I want to hear it. A story about an intuitive moment you've had, and maybe your struggles with being intuitive. A lot of people second guess themselves. Learn who you are. Learn what is important to you. Be your friend. Become your own friend. That will help your intuition a lot. So anyhow, I'm going to talk forever, and these coffee chats are supposed to kind of stay short, so I am definitely going to duck out for today. But I thank you everybody for joining me on these, and I'm not trying to be YouTube famous, but I hope that I can help just one person. It would make me feel so good knowing that the conversations that are floating around, my experiences, will help others maybe in a moment where I'm not sign. So I will see you guys next week. I have a really good idea on what to talk about. And cheers. See you later.